Welcome to the Podium Pod, the Pick and Rolls National Basketball Podcast, as we continue through the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, and a much happier stream tonight compared to last night because the Opals have won through to the semi-finals. The Opals will definitely be playing off for a medal. It's just a matter of what colour medal they will be playing off for. They've defeated Serbia 85-67. I'm Adam Webster, today joined by, firstly, from pickandroll.com.au, Tom Hirsch. Tom, thanks for joining me once again.
Good to be with you, and much happier than the last time the three of us got together. So, I'm looking forward to this.
And from pickandroll.com.au, Daniel Herborn. Daniel, we're all a lot happier than we were compared to the game against Nigeria, which was, we were a bit of a tough hang after that one.
Good to be here. Absolutely. Much happier frame of mind tonight. Great night for the Opals, and excited for what comes next.
Let's start with the headlines from this one. I think we have to talk about the way the whole team played, Tom. I know that you're very keen to talk about the pace of play from this Opals side. They shortened the rotation and they attacked the game at every opportunity. So what from the Opals impressed you the most in part of this win?
Yeah, well, I think they came out with a particular mindset that they wanted to run and get quick possessions and catch Serbia off guard. So they were pushing in transition at every opportunity, whether Serbia was scoring, whether they were getting stops. And to be honest, early on, we were getting more stops than anything. Our first 8 points of the game were all transition opportunities, all transition scoring opportunities. And even Alana Smith, like ripping off the D boards and pushing herself as the five man, just every opportunity to try and get up the floor as quickly as possible. And I think that caught Serbia a little bit off guard, to be honest, early in this game, and kind of helped us to establish a bit of control around how this game was going to play out. So that was really impressive, because one thing we've talked about before is we've been stagnant at times. We've been slow and lethargic at times. The energy that Nigeria played with against us in that opening game really caught us off guard. So this was almost like a reversal of that in some ways, albeit against a different opponent. But that was really pleasing that they came out with that intent and really executed well right from the get-go in the first quarter.
Daniel, as part of the Boomers podcast on the Podium Pod this season, we've talked a lot about live ball turnovers, and the Opals have been as guilty as anyone of those live ball turnovers across the tournament. Do you think it was a concerted effort to push the ball to try and limit the opportunity for Serbia to get their hands on it and have those live ball turnovers and get them on the back foot, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that was definitely a focus. I think, in the first quarter particularly, Jade Melbourne really set the tone. Like, she's so fast up and down the court, and she really used that speed well in the first quarter, and really had Serbia on their back foot from the start, and they never really looked like coming back into it. As we've kind of talked about over the previous podcasts, the half court offense has got a bit stagnant. The off ball movement hasn't always been there. I thought that was better tonight. But yeah, we were obviously in that mindset of wanting to push the pace whenever it could. We looked really good in transition, and Alana Smith, like such an athletic forward, gets up and down the court so well. She was really key as well. So yeah, I just loved the pace that they played with tonight.
Got to talk about Alana Smith. 22 points on 7 of 13 shooting, 13 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 assists as well, Tom. Just stuffing the stat sheet, but more impressive than the stats was the way that she attacked, the way that she played. There was no one on the Serbian team that could go with her, that could stop her once she was inside, and they had to resort to fouling her. She went to the line 9 times. Up to this game, she hadn't hit a free throw. She was 8 of 9 from the line in this contest. So the confidence grew over the course of the tournament, and it translated at this point into buckets and fouls and free throw attempts and just an overall fantastic performance. And you got to say, Alana Smith was the best player on the court tonight.
No doubt. I mean, I thought she's been pretty good through this tournament. I thought she's been one of our better players for sure, but she went to another level in this game. And again, right from the get-go, as I spoke about, not just pushing in transition, but even when they were in the half court, really making emphasis of just attacking the basket at every opportunity, knowing she could beat her opponent, knowing no one could stay with her, and she'd either score or she'd get to the free throw line, as you said. You mentioned the 9 free throw attempts. She actually drew 12 fouls on Serbia by herself through the course of the game, which is a ridiculous stat when you think about it. I mean, if you draw 5 or 6 fouls for a game, you're doing really well. So to draw 12 was amazing, but she attacked the O boards. She made good reads. She finished when she needed to, and she got to the free throw line, as you said, repeatedly, and just kept that scoreboard ticking over, which was really important. So I loved the way she played, and she was hands down the best player on the floor tonight. There's no doubt about that.
Daniel, Alana Smith's going to come up against, the best front court in the world in the semi-finals if Team USA do get through. That game hasn't been played yet, but I think the assumption is that that's the likely result. If she plays like this, though, then it's going to be much more of an even matchup than we potentially would have thought heading into this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Alana Smith, I've thought for a while she is a kind of WNBA, a player with WNBA All-Star potential, and it will be pretty interesting to see her come up against that incredible front court the US has. Like obviously we're massive outsiders, but going into that one, but with Alana Smith playing like this, it does give us a fighting chance. She is very hard to stop, and she gets a roll on, and she was fantastic tonight. So yeah, that's going to be an intriguing battle next match.
Next topic, I'll go straight to you, Daniel, for this one. Jade Melbourne. We've talked about Jade all tournament long. She's at times struggled to take care of the ball. We've talked about how her teammates have to support her more. I've thought she was set up for success in this contest, both from the pace that the game was played, but also in some of the support that she received up the court from her teammates. There was a lot more of an emphasis of bigs bring the ball up the floor and being that pressure release valve for Jade, so she wasn't stuck on an island with an elite perimeter defender, and that translated into a scintillating performance. 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals for Jade Melbourne. She was fantastic, and this was a breakout performance for Jade in this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, she did get a bit more support in the backcourt. There was a phase of the game where Serbia were full court pressing, and Australia just kind of came up with a couple of screens, had players that she could pass to, really took the pressure off her. But she was fantastic tonight. I think there was a bit of chat leading to this game that maybe Tess Madgen would get those minutes, and Melbourne would take a bit more of a back seat. But yeah, she was fantastic in the first quarter, really set the tone for the game. It was a breakout performance for her. We've known for a long time she's got this potential, but as a 21-year-old, it kind of looked like she was there was maybe some kind of teething problems at this level of competition. So it was really pleasing to see her take that next step and be so assertive and be so impactful in this game.
I also loved how Sandy extended her a lot more rope than she has at other points in this tournament.
Yes.
And that was evident in the first quarter. And like the rotation has normally been kind of 4.5 minutes into the first quarter, Tess would come in for Jade. And you saw Jade was still in there with 5 or 6 minutes into that first quarter. And even when she went out for a spell, she was right back in about 2 minutes later, taking Steph Talbot out and even playing that 3 spot for a little bit. So Sandy could tell that Jade was rolling, and I love that she's now kind of got that trust in her just to let her go and do Jade Melbourne things, and that's what we saw tonight.
Tom, the rotation really shortened in this contest. There were 7 players that played more than 18 minutes, and then there was a big drop-off. So Jade Melbourne, Steph Talbot, Tess Madgen, Alana Smith, Ezzy McMagor, Kayla George, and Sammy Whitcomb were the 7 individual rotation for Sandy Brondello. Do you think that also factored into this Opals performance, because all of a sudden the same players were playing together more? Sandy knew who she had trust in, and that could translate to playing in a certain fashion, which set them up for success against Serbia.
I think there's a little bit of that, but I think it's just the players that have been getting it done for Sandy up until this point. And a lot of that is probably coming off what they did against France a couple of days ago and the players that came through. And obviously we know that what Tess Madgen did in that game, and we know what Kayla George has done in the last 2 games. But they're her primary weapons off the bench, as in Sandy's primary weapons off the bench in Tess and Kayla. So they're always going to be the first 2 subs. We saw a little cameo from Tolo. It was a bit hit or miss. And I think that she being Sandy, just knew that between Alana Smith, McMagor, and Kayla, she had the front line covered. And those 3 were working really well as a combo when 2 of them were on at any one time. And it's kind of same with those wing and guard positions. Like we saw a little bit of Amy Atwell at times, but it wasn't great, to be honest. But having Tess and Sammy and Jade that are also interchangeable, as well as Steph Talbot, who can handle the ball and obviously facilitate, it's a luxury. And that's probably all you need when it's winning time. And I think that's what it was for Sandy. It was who was going to get it done, who was going to get it done for us tonight, who can I trust, and who do I want to make sure they're in a good kind of rhythm and flow through this whole game. And I think that's where you saw those extended minutes and the rotation shortened, as you said.
Speaking of who you can trust, the Podium Board is brought to you by Team Feet. Team Feet offers premium athletic socks for modern teams. However, they compete with sweat wicking cotton, arch support, ventilation panels, and compression stitching. Team Feet socks are built to outperform whether your team is tiny or 1,000 strong. Team Feet unites and excites your players and supporters with their combination of quality and performance. Join basketball teams around Australia and the world by choosing Team Feet. For designs and worldwide delivery, head to teamfeet.com. Daniel, we've talked about turnovers all tournament long for the Opals. They still had 19 turnovers, which is not necessarily a great number, but they seem to commit a lot of those turnovers when they're already up by about 20 or 30 points in this contest, which made them a little bit less egregious than usual. Is there still a turnover problem with the Opals due to their inconsistency in that stat? And what would you like to see different against potentially Team USA in the semifinals?
Yeah, I think probably the decision-making part of it is probably our weakness at the moment. If you look at a player like Jade Melbourne, it is a little bit similar to what we're seeing with Josh Giddey in the Boomers. Like, she makes those brilliant passes, but she also throws the ball away at times. There just isn't quite that high level consistency there. But as you say, the turnovers weren't as costly tonight. They didn't come at crucial times. I think in the third quarter, which is where Serbia really, if they were going to get back into the game, that was going to be it. I think we only had 2 turnovers. We looked at after the ball pretty well then. It is a work in progress for the Opals, but I think it was a lot better tonight, despite, as you say, 19 not being a number you want to see in the turnover column. Just on the eye test, it was a lot better tonight.
22 of 25 from the line as well, Tom. We've seen the Opals miss free throws in this tournament. Tonight was not one of those cases, obviously led by Alana Smith with 8 of 9 from the line. Being able to get to the line early and often in this contest really puts Serbia on the back foot. So that's another recipe for success. This is something that they're going to have to do in the semifinals and further on in this tournament.
And again, it comes back to the pace with which they're playing, because it puts pressure on the opposing defense, and that's where we saw a number of fouls committed, and Serbia going to the bonus in a few of those quarters tonight, which obviously increased the number of free throw attempts for the Opals. But knocking them down was great. I mean, I think they were 19 of 20 at one point in the game. They missed a couple late, but 22 of 25, you'll take that in any game. 25 free throw attempts is a great number for this team. And look, it's not going to be that easy against Team USA. Obviously, their interior defense, their rim protection is at another level to what Serbia's is. But it's a good recipe for success in terms of trying to push the pace and catch their defense off guard before they can get set. Because if you can get some cheap buckets, if you can keep those free throws ticking over, maybe get some of their bigs into foul trouble early, it gives you a chance to hang around against a team that's as talented as Team USA is.
Daniel, is it as simple as, good ball movement and shot making against Team USA to be able to have a chance against a side like that? I mean, taking care of the ball, getting to the line, really good ball movement and high assist numbers, and obviously shooting really well from outside. I mean, you've got to almost have a perfect game to beat this team, or you probably do have to have a perfect game to beat this team, given the number of games since they've lost in international play. Are these Opals capable of beating Team USA on their night?
Look, to be honest, I think the US are just a juggernaut, and I think it would be incredible if the Opals won it. I think if you play the game 100 times, maybe we get the win a couple of times, to be realistic.
Yep.
But I think, as you say, like, we've improved our fundamentals so much over the past couple of games. That gives us the best chance. Moving the ball, the off-ball movement was so much better tonight than it had been earlier in the tournament. That stagnant offense, we didn't see that as much tonight. And I think really playing an up-tempo game, getting those transition buckets whenever we can, that gives us our best chance. And as we were talking about before, getting the ball to Alana Smith as much as possible. Great athlete, great shot maker. And she's one of the players that can really take it to the US. We've talked about shortening the rotation. They did that well. I think Sandy definitely outcoached her Malkovich tonight. So I think we're doing everything we can. There's just such an incredible level of talent in the US team. It's just hard for anyone to beat them. But yeah, we do all those things, we give ourselves a fighting chance.
Tom, this is where Sandy Brondello, makes her money as the coach, right? She not only coaches two of the very best players on Team USA in Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart, but she's coached against the likes of Asia Wilson in WNBA finals. So she has intel and experience playing these players and is best suited to be able to get these Opals prepared as possible for this juggernaut.
Yeah, no doubt. And scouting is going to be key to that game in terms of how you limit some of those players. Kayla George played with Asia Wilson when she was on the Aces last year. Brianna Stewart, obviously a former teammate of Ezzy and Sammy back at Seattle. So there's familiarity in a number of different ways with this group, so that they're going to know what to expect. But I think this is going to be more about how the Opals execute on both ends of the floor. Then more so than a particular game plan, because if we get loose again, if we start turning it over, if we cave to their pressure, for example, if we don't box out and get stops, and if we don't space the floor well, then we're going to really struggle against this team to keep that scoreboard ticking over. And you have to score against them early just to put a bit of pressure on them, because if you let them get ahead big early, they're going to run away with the game. So you have to keep it tight early. And I love the spacing we had tonight. A lot of actions that were kind of 5 out with one of the big coming up to the high post, high pick and roll. And how many times do we see someone kind of dive to the ring for an open layup and there was just no one else in the paint? I mean, I think my favorite play of the night was when Sammy Whitcomb hit Alana Smith and she turned and started walking back down the floor before Alana had even made the layup, because she just knew she was wide open. I mean, that was just a great execution. But we need to space like that. We need to pull their bigs away from the basket. Yeah. And we need to find ways just to keep that scoreboard ticking over and just keep it tight early on. And then, as Daniel said, if you get a bit of luck, you catch lightning in a bottle, anything's possible, and you give yourselves a chance.
Any team can win any game of basketball if they get hot. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. We've seen the Adelaide 36ers beat the Phoenix Suns just by hitting a just unbelievable amount of threes. So if the Opals can get hot, if USA gets tight, then there's a puncher's chance, as they say in boxing, of a victory to the Opals. We will, of course, be with you after the semi-final game, regardless of the result. And then there will at least be one more Podium pod, because the Opals will be facing off either for a gold medal or a bronze, depending on how that semi-final goes. Daniel Herborn, thank you very much for joining me tonight in the Podium pod.
Absolute pleasure.
And Tom, thank you very much once again.
Let's go Opals. Thanks, Adam.
Let's go Opals. Remember to like and subscribe to the Pick and Rolls YouTube feed, the Podium Pods podcast channels. And of course, you can subscribe to pickandroll.com.au for all the great content that Daniel and Tom bring to you each and every week. For Daniel and Tom, I'm Adam Webster. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Podium Pod. And as Tom said, go Opals.